Today's video is going to be on Blue Archive. Hey look, if you're a long-time individual watcher of this channel, you know that I like this game. I talked about it pretty recently, I think. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember my own uploads, except for the highly edited ones. So I probably did talk about this. Plus my uploads are all over the place, depending on when I make them. Some may come out a week after I've uploaded them, some may come out a week before, who knows? But Blue Archive, look, I am going to be honest here. I have played this game the longest outside of Genshin Impact. And it is the primary foundation for my channel, as in this is the game that actually got me into talking about story, about characterization, about trying out all these other gacha games from Nikkei to Counterside to Art of Gear Fusion and so on. And it's one of the games that sort of set up a foundation and a basis for comparison for what I look for not only in the character's design, as in their image and appearance, but also in how I interact with them. So needless to say, it's had a pretty big impact, not only on me, but also my channel. I don't think I would be, at this point on YouTube without Blue Archive. So thank you to every Blue Archive player that's been watching these videos and hanging around this long. But I don't play that game super duper often. If you're in the club that I'm in, then you know that I log on maybe once a week, maybe even twice a week. But because I'm so attached to the game's characters, I only come back for a character. I participate in Total Assault. I do that. But PvP hasn't necessarily interested me, and overall, the game's characters are the selling point, but the gameplay itself, it's not super involving. Now, don't get me wrong. Even though I've covered Arknights, if you were to tell me if you were to give me both gacha games and say you can only choose one, I would choose Blue Archive. Like, hands down, I enjoy Blue Archive much more and have a lot more fun just because the characters are ones that I like more. But I've mentioned before, Blue Archive does have a difficulty in terms of explaining its mechanics to you. However, I think that overall, it's a worthwhile experience. I've mentioned a bunch of times that the characters in Blue Archive are wonderful, whether you like rolling for the summer outfits or not, as in their separate characters, or whether you really like participating in PvP or the game's overall Total Assault, which is essentially the harder content. I firmly believe that the characters, not only the designs, but also the personalities, are the game's main selling point. It's why the game is well talked about. Don't get me wrong, the art of the game is amazing. If you watched any of the characters in a nutshell, like Arisu, or Izuna, or Hoshino, etc., or Ari, whatever, however you say her name, then you know that the art is pretty good. I featured the art pretty heavily in my videos. But even outside of that, outside of the art getting people hyped up for characters like Hibiki and her cheerleader outfit, the fact that the relationship storylines have so much put into them, and the fact that the characters have unique lines they give you for Christmas, for Valentine's Day, for Halloween, it's incredibly nice to have, because each time you do log on during a holiday, it doesn't feel like just a normal day. The characters do, if they don't have an event going on, they do actually have a unique line to say to you. Not to mention the Valentine's Day stuff, in which you got individual little mini scenes. And I love that, because it gave me another opportunity to interact with my favorite characters. And I think that it's perfectly fine to not like the gameplay of Blue Archive, to not like how little control you have of the characters and units you have. Because if you're someone like me and you like using somebody like Izuna and she's your favorite character, well, she's a frontline unit, meaning that she's likely going to draw fire, and a lot of times that's going to make your runs pretty difficult. So if you like more control over your characters, then I can understand why you would prefer other gacha games. That's perfectly fine. And if you really don't understand Blue Archive's gameplay or the story, and you're kind of here for the art, that's fine too, because let's be honest here, the Blue Archive is carried by the art community. Like, I think 80% of the individuals who play this game at the very least know some artists. And I'm pretty sure the Twitter feed of a lot of us is not very safe to browse in public. But with that being said, I do wholeheartedly believe Blue Archive is a great gacha game. Like, from the first time you boot the game up and listen to that main menu theme, not the lobby, but just the actual introduction theme, it's wonderful. And don't get me wrong, all the art, the official art for the game is great, as in the ones that I've used for thumbnails different times. So there's a lot of effort put into the game itself. However, I do think that the art and the general setting of the characters, the fact that it's kind of centered around school, does overtake a lot of the deeper elements of it. I think a lot of individuals look at Blue Archive and say, oh, it's that game about characters like Hina. And it gives it sort of a bad reputation. And I briefly glossed over this here and there. And it's 3 a.m., actually 4 a.m., so I'm going to be a bit rambly. I do apologize. But ultimately, I think I originally got into Blue Archive when it first launched. I re-rolled until I got the characters I thought was cute, and that was a Iori alongside a Maki, and then I got Hibiki later on, and you kind of see the state of my account through the time. And even though I only got into the game with Izuna, that was still relatively early on, all things considered. But for a game that didn't necessarily pique my interest early on, I do appreciate a lot of the designs, and I appreciate a lot of the characteristics the game has. The game isn't entirely lewd and hypersexualized. The game does have some subtle characters, and don't get me wrong, there are some over-the-top ones like Amy and Izumi. but not every last one of them. And I think it's why for me I appreciate Blue Archive Sedan more than I appreciate something like Nikkei. Or Nike. Once again, I still don't know how to say that name. So if we're talking from a design standpoint, don't get me wrong, I will completely be honest, the live stream for Blue Archive that recently occurred, it didn't interest me in the slightest. I actually tuned in, and sure, there were some things announced here and there, but it wasn't anything that was super exciting. And I do think Blue Archive doesn't necessarily have that much interest drumming around it compared to other gacha games, at least the ones that I've covered. And don't get me wrong, the gacha system is pain a lot of times, most of the time, pretty much all the time. I mean, I do appreciate that you can gradually build up your units in terms of stars over the time of rolling just naturally due to LFs, but it's still a system that irks me here and there. And I do like the methodology and methods you have for getting stamina, for getting LMD. From the cafe to the events to everything else you do to the achievement systems and tasks. I do like that, and I enjoy the rewards and the trophies you get from completing total assaults. So ultimately, the gameplay loop is relatively satisfying, but if I'm talking about what I prefer to focus on the story, and I think Blue Archive excels in it, from getting me to care about the characters to getting me to care about the clubs and the different relationships students have with one another, and the fact that there is sometimes vague interactions between characters, or that they are featured together in art, and that the clubs make them legitimately feel like, a group of individuals who do know each other to a degree. And I think Blue Archive, its main success and its main draw and the main point that I will always reference and always say it excels at is the characters. Each unit, each club, each school, each category of weapon type, or each individual factor and trait that is outlined in the unit's kit feels like it makes sense. The personality of a character is, breathed into every aspect of the design. From the models of weapon they use to the outfits they have that can completely change even if they're going from a summer outfit to the standardized school outfit to the gym outfit that we're seeing now. Or the sports one, I suppose. It's not just an aspect in which a character feels like a reskin, because whether you're talking about gameplay or not, the design and the personality feels different. The live 2Ds feel different. They have different moods. You can see gradual improvement from early designs that really feel a bit rough around the edges to the net ones we have present in game now. Blue Archive is a game that I have deeply invested into, not only the characters, but the story and the actual, system itself. But it's also a game that I can comfortably say has been one of my all-time favorite gachas. Because even if I don't come back to it every day, the experiences I've had, the characters that I've had and built up, and the relationship storylines that I've witnessed are among my favorites, and I still do think highly of them to this day. I played other gachas. I played gachas with storylines. I played gachas with relationship stories. I've even played Azure Lane, some characters. But nothing compares to the commitment I've had for the units. In Blue Archive, it's the only game where I've actively said I don't really care about meta, and have actively chosen to invest into units that I enjoy and that I like the personality of. Izuna is my highest invested character. She's maxed out. She has the highest unique equipment. I put everything I had into this character and I don't regret it in the slightest because I don't care if she's meta or not, I like her. And to me, that's the mark of a really good gacha game with really good characterization, because if it can make you ignore the current meta and focus on what you actively enjoy, that's a good experience. So as a result, I will always say wholeheartedly, I enjoy and I adore this game. I recommend it to anybody who's on the fence, and at the end of the day, I want to hear your opinions. I want to hear who you enjoy. Is there a character you came for and then left? Is there a reason you left, or is there a reason you stayed? What brings you back to this game? And thank you for all the support you've always showed me, because this channel wouldn't be here without you. By the way, my name's been Naki. Hope you've enjoyed. If you have, leave a like, and I'll see you next time.